right, everyone, let's talk about what's been going on in the world of cybersecurity over the past month because it's really been a wild one. We're going to go through three major hacks that made headlines and break down what actually happened in plain English. I know usually on my channel, I usually go over like information, but I think this is more interesting from the podcast that I follow, where you actually learn about what happened and how they did it. You know what I mean? And then whatever you're studying, you can see how it applies because it really covers ground. So let's get started. We're going to go over three major hacks that made headlines and break down what actually happened in plain English. And let's talk about what it means for all of us going forward. No jargon, no technical overload, just a story of what went wrong and who got hurt and what we should take away from it. Okay, so hack number one was the Canvas learning platform breach. Let's start with the one that hit closest to home for a lot of students and teachers, the Canvas hack. Canvas, I just recently was using that in my cybersecurity platform because part of our classes was remote and we all connected through Canvas. So it didn't impact me though. I was out of school at that time. So if you ever use Canvas to submit assignments, check your grades, or message your professor, this one is for you. Canvas is owned by a company called Instructor, and they manage the accounts of roughly 275 million across nearly 9,000 universities and K-12 schools worldwide. Think about that number for a second. 275 million people. That's probably about 350, 360 million people in America in general. That's almost the entire population. A hacker group known as Shiny Hunters quietly broke into their systems and walked out with 3.65 terabytes of data. To put that in perspective, that's enough data to fill about 730 DVDs. The stolen information included names, emails, addresses, student IDs, and private messages sent through the platform. Now, here's where it gets particularly messy. Instructors try to quietly fix the problem without telling everyone, without paying the hackers what they were demanding. This was a mistake. The hackers responded by doing something dramatic. And on May 7th, right in the middle of final season, they broke back in and completely defaced the Canvas login page. Students all over the world were trying to log in to take their exams and were instead greeted with a ransomware message. Canvas was forced to go completely offline. In the end, instructor paid the ransom. The hackers gave them a promise that the stolen data had been deleted, but honestly, in cybersecurity, those promises aren't worth much. Once your data is out there, you can never be 100% sure it's gone. And how did they get in? The attackers found a weakness in how Canvas connects their third-party tools and apps. The kind of integrations that let your school's library system talk to Canvas or let teachers use add-on tools in our courses. They also exploited some issues with free teacher accounts and API keys, which are basically like master password that developers use to build connections between software systems. It's a reminder that everyone and every extra connection you add to a platform is another potential door for a hacker to try. So thinking about it in verse, you know what I mean? Like I said in past videos, if when it comes to doing the capture the flags, that's why they're good to do because you have to think outside the box. So first, I feel like we have to study all the information to know how everything works. And we know over time there's been so many systems and the systems are going to just keep growing. So like say, CCNA, CCNP, Cisco Network Associate or Cisco Network Professional, you learn how these networks are working in the background. So you know the defenses that they're trying to set up so you can work around them. So that's number one. For number two, uh, I looked up the France National Identity System. The second attack is arguably the scariest one because it didn't target a company. It targeted entire government identity infrastructure. We're talking about France Tetris, which is a French government agency responsible for issuing national ID cards, passports, driver's license. So we talking about PII, personal identifiable information. So anything like your social security number, where people or address people could attach to you personally, like a fingerprint. That's really high in security priorities, PII, and then health information, and obviously money. So a hacker going by the name of Breached, that's his name that he go by, Breach, with the three as an E, managed to break into the online portal where French citizens manage their official identity documents. When the dust settled, at least 11.7 million accounts have been compromised. An attacker claimed it could be as high as 19 million. To put that in context, France has about 68 million people, so we're potentially talking about more than a quarter of the entire country's population you have in their personal information. And the method here was a combination of two things. First, credential stuffing, which means the attacker tried massive lists of previously leaked usernames and passwords to see which one still worked. You know what I mean? So this works because so many people reuse the same passwords across multiple websites. Second, the attacker found a specific vulnerability in the web application itself. So that's the OWASP top 10, the open web applications. You know what I mean? There's companies, everybody using API now. Every company you have to have a website. So you know the code in the background can't have no weaknesses because the hackers are looking there and there's people who specialize in that, you know. So the specific vulnerability in the web application itself and it's used to scrape through user account data like flipping through pages of a phone book. You know what I mean? So here's what makes this particularly dangerous long term. This is just is an email password that got stolen. This is government verified identity data. So you can just imagine what they could do with that information that has been confirmed as real and accurate by a national authority. Criminals can use that kind of data for target phishing scams where they already know exactly who they're talking to, for creating fake identities that are harder to detect, and for financial fraud that can follow victims for years. The French government had to take the entire portal offline while they did a full security overhaul. It gets big, man. It gets big. And for the third one, I covered the Foxconn manufacturing secrets. The third attack shifts us from education and government into the corporate and manufacturing world. Foxconn is one of the most important companies you probably never thought about. They're the people who actually build iPhones, PlayStations, and countless other electronics you use every day in people's homes. They have massive facilities in North America, and those facilities just got hit hard by a ransomware group called Nitrogen. These people always come up with crazy names. Like, it's pretty cool. The way the attackers got in is actually a really important and increasingly common method called malvertising. And this is how it works. Imagine a Foxconn employee searches Google for a software tool they need, maybe something completely ordinary like a PDF editor or a file compression tool. The hackers have paid to place fake ads at the top of the search result that look completely legitimate. The employee clicks the ad and downloads look like normal software, and without knowing it, it installs a malicious program that gives the hackers backdoor into Foxconn network. So I'm sure everybody experienced this one of these apps where if you're using the free version instead of paid version, they send you advertisements. You can click on something to go directly, like a Temu, you click on the item and then hackers can pretty much use that, and once you click on that it automatically allows them to get get some type of access to your technology that you clicked on. So once inside, the attackers didn't just hit one computer and run, they moved laterally throughout the network, like I was saying before, by networking, jumping from machine to machine, stealing login credentials, and eventually compromising a system that controlled the entire local network. By the end, they had their hands on 8 terabytes of data, which included more than 11 million files. Those weren't just any files, they were engineered blueprints, technical schematics, design documents for upcoming hardware products. So this is crucial information that keep this company separate because there's a lot of people that got money out there. So you get how they work, then you could just build the same system for cheaper. This is called a double extortion tactic. The hackers didn't just look up Foxconn files and demand money and lock them. They also took the files and threatened to publish or sell them unless Foxconn paid up. That's a much more powerful lever because even if Foxconn restores their systems for backup, the stolen intellectual property is still out there. Competitors could potentially get access to product designs before they even release. It's corporate espionage, hostage situation, all rolled into one. They're gonna get at you. You know what I mean? You got big money. They're gonna take what's most important to you, hold it. You're gonna pay up, or we're gonna release it, or give it to somebody else that's gonna pay up. You know what I mean? So, what would you really do in that situation? That's pretty scary, right? If you could lose everything. So what's the big takeaway from looking at these three attacks? A clear pattern emerges. In each case, the hackers didn't break down the front door, they found the side window that was left open. For Canvas, it was a third-party integrations and API keys. For Finch Teacheries, it was reused passwords and runnable web applications. For Foxconn, it was a single employee who clicked on the wrong link. The old way of thinking about security was like a castle wall. Build it high enough and nothing gets in. But what these attacks show is that the model is dead. The old model is dead. Modern organizations are so connected with so many third-party tools, cloud services, external partnerships, that there is no such thing as a perfect wall anymore. Security professionals call the shift away from this thinking zero trust. Don't automatically trust anything or anyone, even if they're already inside your network. Verify every time, everything. For everyday people, the lessons are a little more personal. Don't reuse passwords or cause websites. Be suspicious of software you download, even from search results. And pay close attention when companies tell you your data has been breached. These notifications aren't just formalities, they're warnings to take action. These three hacks happened in the span of a single month. Each one affected tens of millions of people. Cybersecurity isn't just an IT problem anymore. It's a problem that touches schools, governments, global supply chains, and ultimately each every one of us. Understanding these attacks work in the first step toward not becoming the next victim. Thank you. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Have a good one.